NewsNation is where right and left come to be reasonable. And let's start with some great news. Idaan Alexander, the last living American hostage held by the Hamas terror organization, was released today. And it is a beautiful thing to see. You know what that is? That is like some kind of Trump ad that I was reading before this thing. Anyway, so he was released today. Beautiful moment, okay? And this is an amazing miracle for this family. And I don't know what it means to the American president, but I know it means everything to this family. They had to believe that they didn't know this would ever happen, especially with a young man. I should say that this is great news, but it's also a bitter reminder for a lot of other families. There are almost 6 other souls still suffering unknown horrors in captivity, and their return has to be a precondition for any real leverage to end hostilities. I mean, think about if it were us. Would you have any tolerance for America stopping its military assault on someone who stole dozens of Americans? So the plea should be simple. If you want the conflict to end, send home the people you stole, so real talks can begin, because then there's leverage on that side. Of course, this is a request that's been falling on deaf ears because those ears belong to terrorists sworn to the annihilation of Jews and apparently of their own people. Why do I say that? Well, they hide behind them, under them, fight from positions that are supposed to be civilian positions. They store military and other equipment in places that are supposed to be non-combat zones. They hog supplies and funds that is absolutely contributing to the despair on the ground there. So why would they give a damn about doing the right thing? So that's what's happening there. Great for the Alexander family. Thank God he's home. Hopefully, somebody gets through to this organization and finds some way to get back the people they stole. Now, let's come back home and look at the new policy battle that we're about to have. House Republicans have unveiled their Medicaid cut plans. I don't know what to think about it. I got to hear more. I got to hear the arguments. And look, the first question is to understand, what is this about for the GOP? Like, why are you looking at Medicaid? What do you want to do? Is it just waste, fraud, and abuse? Fine, then show us that. But that's not what they're requesting, okay? And if they are requesting money, what do they want that money for? Okay, is it really about paying to extend the tax cuts? And if that's what you want to do, why don't you start with the DOD? Why would you start with the most vulnerable in our population and not the largest discretionary pocket we have that fails every efficiency review they go through, the DOD, the Department of Defense? So the GOP is saying, no. Cuomo has it wrong. We're not cutting any benefits for Medicaid. This is just saying that people should be working, okay? Now, what's the suggestion? You got a lot of lazy people on Medicaid, right? Come on. We know the perception. I can't tell you how often people refer to me about Medicaid as welfare, okay? So let's just remember who we're actually talking about, all right? Medicaid recipients are disproportionately from the South. Many are in red states. And the largest group that receives Medicaid benefits are children, okay? 37 million of them, all right? The CHIP Act, all these, SNAP, all these things. There are also 7.2 million seniors who get Medicaid. No, that's Medicare. No, it's Medicaid, because the pocket to pay for nursing home beds comes out of Medicaid for some of the elderly, all right? Medicaid also pays for 4 in 10 births nationally, okay? So when you say, oh yeah, you just got to work, as if everybody there is like an able-bodied young person who's deciding not to work because they can just get the government tip, right? This is a false suggestion based on what I just told you. Now, let's deal with the tens of millions of adults who are also part of Medicaid. Maybe you see 35, maybe you see 40 million, okay? What do we know about them? It's on your screen. 2 out of 3 of them are already working full or part-time. About 1 in 3 either are disabled, meaning they can't work, right? Or now you get that last number, about somewhere between 7 and 10% aren't working. Why? Well, some are retired. Many others can't find jobs, which is not unusual in this country. I know we got open jobs, but there are a lot of people who still say they can't find work. Now, I get the sell proposition here. It is very easy to make you feel like these are people who are abusing your tax dollars, your largesse. They're just on the government tit forever, right? So if people are on Medicaid and they can work, they should work, damn it, right? It's supposed to be a bridge program. You're not supposed to be on it forever. But I just showed you the numbers. We're talking about less than somewhere around 7 to 10%. So why making it all about work? It doesn't make any sense, right? And doing it the way the House is doing it actually raises a legal question. The point of Medicaid is to provide medical assistance to those who can't afford it. It's not a work program. So at what point does a legal requirement that can easily be misapplied and rob benefits to those who need them, at what point does that kind of requirement actually become illegal? Because this is a health assistance program, not a work program. Oh, that's a tortured legal analysis. Is it? Arkansas lived exactly the question I'm telling you about. They implemented a Medicaid work requirement program in 2018. Gee, I wonder where the House MAGA caucus got the idea from. Anyway, it was struck down a year later. Why? Exactly why I just said, that the work requirements failed to further the objectives of Medicaid, which is to provide the poor with health insurance. Okay? In fact, Arkansas, in studies about its own program, realized it didn't work. That what happened as a result of the work requirements was that it left them with more uninsured. So now they're trying something different. And remember, the GOP is proposing a nearly identical plan to what Arkansas did in 2018. So you know it's going to get challenged, right? Look up the Arkansas experience. Over 18,000 folks got kicked off of Medicaid. Oh, and by the way, not because they were lazy and didn't want to work. Multiple studies show that most of those 18,000 lost coverage because they had difficulty reporting the work hours in the way that the new requirements required. There were people who were working and they still lost coverage. Why? Because it was about punishing. That's why. And those same studies found there was no increase in employment in the state after they instituted the requirements, meaning the policy just failed its stated goal of increasing more employment. The only impact of the policy was it mistakenly took away thousands of people's health insurance, and they were already the most vulnerable. So, look, you can say you don't want to touch the benefits, but it still seems like your plan is looking to kick people off the rolls, and many of these people who will be affected voted for you, okay? Now, where are we getting this from? The CBO, all right? And don't say, I don't want to hear the whole, oh, deep state. Listen, no matter what party you're in, they rely on the CBO when they want to make a case about something, okay? So the CBO estimates that the legislation would cause nearly 9 million to lose their Medicaid coverage in the next decade. Now, the government would technically save hundreds of billions of dollars in the process. Why do I say technically? Because where do you think those people are going to go when they get sick and when they need things? You don't think they're going to go to emergency rooms? You don't think that they're going to have need and somebody's going to have to help? Now, let's say we save hundreds of billions of dollars. This is a big number, right? Where does it go? You're going to pay down the debt, right? You're going to put it right into the coffers, right? No. The talking point is that it will help pay for extending the Trump tax cuts. But 80 cents of every dollar went to the wealthy. What happened to taxing the rich and corporate class to pay for a real middle-class tax cut? You were just saying it last week. Steve Bannon was on our town hall. The president says he's open to it. He just thinks the Democrats will say, oh, read my lips, no new taxes. They never said that. That's not a thing. That was a thing for Bush, the elder. That's not what this is about. So what happened to that idea? The MAGA House folks should look at the experience of their fellow MAGA governor in Arkansas, Governor Sarah Sanders, okay? She wasn't part of what got undone in Arkansas because it was found to be illegal, but she learned from it, and she is now doing something different. She's trying to implement work requirements with a pathway to success. What does that mean? Nothing. It's just the title. But state-funded coaches, caseworkers, connect with the recipients who aren't working and can work and want to work to find opportunities. So if they can't find them, then it's not just kicking somebody off because you have a check in place to say, oh, I can't find this person a job, or I can, and now they're working. So instead of just requiring people to work and have all these onerous reporting mechanisms that are, eventually going to trip people up, even if they're doing the right thing, they're helping find opportunities so that eventually they won't need Medicaid anymore. That's what the federal government should be doing. But instead, they're just going to do what Arkansas did that failed. And their reason for doing it, I think, demands scrutiny. Because if you're going to go after the most vulnerable to pay for a tax cut for the wealthiest disproportionately, that's really screwed up and absolutely not populism. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.